Hey you geeks! We've got another Wheel of Time Comic Con panel and I'm all about it. Sorry I missed the trailer last month. I was elbow deep in quantum mechanics and could not extract myself. Now, I've gathered a medium-sized summary of things we know so far. If you want a 2-hour breakdown, go to the Dusty Wheel. But my goal is to be better than Vox. We'll go through the Magnificent 7, 6, Emmons Field 5 plus Moraine, then a few bonus items. I've made it as spoiler-free as possible, meaning I'm keeping to only what has been confirmed or what is basic lore that doesn't give away any major plot points. So, strap in. Egwene. The trailer starts out focusing on her getting shoved off a cliff. Then learning how to float down a river by surrendering to it. Fun fact, in order to float on your back, a person has to keep their chin up and relax in the water. Tense up and look at your toes, you will sink like a rock. It's also easier for women to float since generally our center of gravity is held on our wide hips, which generally is where the fat is stored, and fat floats better than muscle. Hence why witches float.
Does a wood sink in water?
No, it floats. It floats. Throw her into the pool.
I'm already psyched that the show is giving me opportunities to quote Monty Python. Egwene's floating sequence ends probably with her popping out in a paint dipping pool. I wasn't sure if the paint was part of the float sequence at first. Now it's pretty much been confirmed that Egwene is doing an initiation ceremony of some sort, probably into the women's circle of Emmons Field. So the surreal paint makes sense as a ritual thing. We know she later enters the Wine Spring Inn, and based on Nynaeve's beaming, that's pretty clearly her returning from the ceremony. For further confirmation, we have this scene later that night.
How did the ceremony go today?
It seems to me that the show really is emphasizing how Egwene, the belle of Emmons Field, is used to being the center of attention. So her arc might be about learning to share the limelight as she sets out on her adventure with Moraine and those pesky boys. Nynaeve is the other character this trailer begins focusing on. She gives Egwene advice, then a good hard shove.
Be strong.
Nynaeve starts out so right, doing what all those who know Egwene well wish they could do. Or at least I wish I could shove Egwene off a cliff. Nynaeve also has a mother hen side that can just bristle with pride when appropriate. And she's prone to defending her flock.
Name yourself, stranger.
Lan Mondragoran.
I see they're going with a strong Aragorn influence with Lan, playing up his resemblance to the Murdral. That's this thingy? Lovely. Just as Aragorn was first mistaken for a Dark Rider. We also get this lovely snippet in the trailer.
Dark One is coming for your friends.
Someone is sneaking up on Lan, then pulling a blade on him. If I had to bet, that would be Nynaeve, as her fierce little knife, so eager to protect her friends. It's also worth noting that Arwen does the same thing to Aragorn in the movies, at least.
What's this? A ranger caught off his guard?
We later see Nynaeve in harm's way and Lan shielding her very closely. I think my hopes of seeing exactly what is going on between those two will be realized. Rand. The only ginger in town, yet he blends in well with the Emmons Field folk.
And ages come.
That dopey grin on Rand is just so Rand. And his way with women is already just stellar.
Don't know, actually. We haven't talked yet.
It appears he is going to have gone a lot further with Egwene than he did in the book. This is supposed to be a sign of them aging up the characters from their book counterparts. In the first 3 books, the youths are supposed to be in their late teens. Now in the show, they are in their early 20s. Yet the core of the plot hinges on the idea of immature people being saddled with great power. Rand's inability to talk to women is one such immaturity. The other is him carrying weapons that he is not qualified to hold. He prefers his trusty Two Rivers longbow, but is given his father's heron-marked sword.
And Tam, Rand's father, he was a blade master, and he owns such a sword. And yeah, this sword becomes a really important weapon on their journey.
Perrin. Hearing Marcus say this at New York Comic Con made me very excited.
You know, this animal nature that we have inside ourselves, but also this sort of, this kind of passive side that we also have. And I think he's very torn which side is in him and which side is going to kind of take control of him. And I think
Perrin's fight with the animal within is again the essence of his character. Lopin and I were psyched to see him freaking out over a wolf in the trailer. It might just be everything I'd hoped for. In the full Wine Spring scene, we see Perrin demonstrating his superior knowledge about women by going and asking Rand about Egwene.
I'm sure she's just busy. Yeah. I'm sure.
Perrin is just a good wingman. I do want to address one theory about Perrin, which is that he has a wife? He doesn't in the book, but the show has cast Helena Westermanas as Layla Ibarra. My theory was that she was a cousin, as in the first book we're told the Ibarras are a large family, but all we see is Perrin. There is further speculation that Perrin will kill her during a Trolloc attack to protect her from being ravaged. This is not totally out of line considering Perrin's fight with his violent streak and animal side, but I think that is too melodramatic for a first or second episode. Matt. I can't stand him already. That Slavic appearance, that beard, the leer, and the let's take the creepy dagger from the cursed city.
Alright, let's make a deal.
Since I hated Matt in the first book, I think they've nailed him thus far. We see him tossing dice in the Wine Spring Inn and hitting on women in typical Matt fashion. We know he and Rand are going to get into trouble. Yet somehow those 2 idiots will get out of it. Moraine. Last, but certainly not least, we have Moraine, the magical woman call to adventure. She can certainly walk into a room. In the book, she had a real presence and impressed the boys with her mere appearance. But she was also able to keep it more on the down low that she was Aes Sedai for longer than 3 seconds.
That's all we need. Of course, Moraine Sedai.
It wasn't until she started shooting fireballs at the Trollocs that the townsfolk figured it out. Here, I'm cool with them introducing Aes Sedai sooner into the story, just to get everything off to a quicker start. We also know that Moraine at some point will be injured, since we see Lan carrying her into Shadar Logoth, the cursed city. At New York Comic Con, the actors talked about riding with the dummy, which posed for an unconscious Moraine.
I remember we'd like do a trot in like a scene or something, and the dummy's head was just like on like Marcus's shoulder, and I think Uta was like, Marcus, can you just like hold Moraine's head? And then it kind of gave it a bit of the scene a different feel of just Perrin and Moraine like.
Then in the trailer, we see Maureen being healed by another Aes Sedai. Then she's back on her feet and her horse as the crew gathers at the Waygate, which is featured on the final poster. Other tidbits. In the books, Aes Sedai are supposed to be subtle and mysterious, yet almost unmistakable as Aes Sedai, if not by their ring, then by their faces. Not wanting to do loads of CGI, which probably wouldn't look good anyway, the show has opted to keep the rings and mark them with the Aes Sedai's Aja color. Aja is a fancy word for order, and each order has its own speciality. Moraine is a blue, and they take on quests, whatever that means. We know she is a blue by her ring and by her wardrobe. The show's choice for the Aes Sedai wardrobe is one that seems to be controversial. In the books, the sisters aren't solidly dressed in their own colors all the time, but for a visual medium wanting to easily convey that this group of extreme-looking women are all Aes Sedai, dressing them in red for their Aja works perfectly well. We also, much to my pleasure, get to see Logain when he's crazy. Logain is a man who can use the magical power source that the women tap into, except for men, it drives them crazy. Sometimes the power makes men also want to take over the world, hence why the Aes Sedai have stopped and caged him.
We protect the world.
His magic is also why he can break out and probably kill the Aes Sedai who healed Moraine. This sends her warder, that is an Aes Sedai's male companion,
which involves intense loyalty, deep trust, huge connection, and yet nothing sexual, nothing romantic,
into a blind rage. I admit this wire jump looked stupid, but in context, I hope it's supposed to emphasize that the warder is going bonkers after his Aes Sedai's death. And that should look stupid. Though I think when the promotional team got the footage, they were like, dude jumping across a room with axes is tight, and just ran with it. That, in a nutshell, is everything we know about the characters of the Wheel of Time on Prime. So far. I can't wait for this show to air. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Your patronage is greatly appreciated.